That's right, he only went and did it. Blaine Rascal's only bloody gone and done it. He solved world hunger and all. The bloody legend. Somebody give this fella his Nobel Peace Prize, quick. That's right, mortals. Mommy Rascal is going to feed the world. Quick disclaimer, this is actually a very serious topic. Around 25,000 people a day die from starvation and hunger-related diseases. This world is a messed up place. Despite my satirical delivery, I don't want to make light of a serious issue. This video is earnestly intended to discuss and attempt to solve the world hunger problem. If you think I have no right to talk about such a somber topic with such whimsical levity, I humbly refer you to my first video. As always, feel free to engage in the comments section. Phew. Anyway, world hunger. This is a miserable crisis that should not exist. Out of the 8.2 billion people on the planet, hunger affects over 800 million people worldwide. Approximately 9 million people are expected to die from starvation and hunger-related diseases in 2024. 9 million people. For comparison, 11 million people died in the fucking Holocaust! We are having a literal Holocaust worth of deaths every year. 9 million people is ludicrously big. That's the population of Austria. That's the population of Israel, of Belarus, Hungary, Switzerland, of Jamaica, Uruguay and Albania combined. Does that put it in perspective? So, what causes all this hunger? The three key issues are poverty, conflict and climate. Now, poverty means two things. An individual might be too poor to afford to buy food for themselves, or a nation as a whole might be too poor to afford to grow or import enough food for all its citizens. The latter is generally considered much worse. Aladdin can hardly eat to live and steal to eat if the market has no food for him to shoplift. Conflict causes food issues for obvious reasons. In war, food is a resource. Starving your opponent is a common strategy. You burn the wheat fields, you poison the wells, so an enemy army has no way to resupply when entering your territory. And then, the enemy starves, along with the peasants. It's an excellent military strategy, not very ethical though. Modern war is a tad less barbaric, sometimes, but the general idea is that war causes starvation. People cannot grow crops if the fields are battlegrounds. So, last of all, climate. Mother Nature is a bitch sometimes. She'll send floods, droughts, wildfires, diseases, earthquakes, hurricanes, and even bloody plagues of locusts, all of which can royally fuck a nation's food supply. The UN has pledged to end world hunger by 2030. Since that pledge, there has been a global pandemic, and two major new wars have erupted, one of which is in Ukraine, which was literally one of the biggest producers of food on the planet. So the world really isn't going well. In fact, here is a graph of just how not well it's going. This graph was taken from the 2024 Sustainable Development Goal Progress Report, and it shows the 17 promises that the UN made in 2015, goals which they wish to achieve by 2030. Ending world hunger is goal number 2. Notice how it's the biggest red bar on all the world's problems? This graph tells us that in the case of world hunger, just 17% of the UN's original targets are in the green, on track to achieve the goal by 2030. Over 60% are in the red, meaning that progress on the issue has either stagnated or regressed in comparison to 2015. I repeat, in comparison to 2015, over 60% of the world's hungriest countries are just as hungry or even hungrier. And no one's fucking talking about it. 9 years have passed since this pledge, and roughly 9 million people have died each year. What are they going to do? Just let 2030 roll on by and say, whoopsie, we let tens of millions of people die needlessly over the last decade. Let's move the goalpost to 2050. That has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? Sweep it under the rug, have a conference, maybe give Greta Thunberg the limelight again. Lord knows she wants it. Then back to total fucking depravity. The Earth currently produces enough food to healthily sustain 10 billion people. We only have 8.2 billion. We have enough food. We have plenty of food. So what's the big deal? The big deal is the inequities in our food distribution. And capitalism. Now, I bet you're expecting me to go off on a tangent about the evils of capitalism, but I'm not going to do that. I like capitalism. It has its merits, but we all have to admit capitalism is kind of raw dogging the world right now without Vaseline. Anyway, back to starvation. Jesus Christ. Anyway, back to starvation. How are we currently trying to solve starvation? Well, the folks over at the World Food Programme, as well as a myriad number of other food-related charities, are basically trying to provide emergency relief where it is needed most in the developing world. The problem? Most of the developing world is a fucked up place, rampant with civil wars, crime and corrupt governments that just love to build palaces while their people starve. And if the UN really wants to solve world hunger, they're going to need to grow some bollocks. Emergency relief is only a temporary measure, like putting duct tape over an ever-widening crack in the wall. Ultimately, it does nothing to solve the issue. So, what do we do about it? Well, what can be done about it? If the UN can't solve it, how can Blank Rascal? The title was clickbait. The video is a sham. I think I'm going to retire now. World hunger's too hard. Why don't you teach them how to fish? What? What do you mean? Who said that? Give a man a fish and he will eat for a day. But teach a man how to fish. Holy shit, it's fucking Jesus! Yes, I am he. Well, looks like I was wrong about everything, guys. I'm so sorry, Mr. Jesus. It is quite alright, my child. I forgive thee. You know, it's been hard all these years not believing in you. I'm sorry for calling you a fraud. That is okay. I've called you a charlatan, a hack, the world's greatest con man, a devil dicker. I've called your girl a sket. I've called your dad a pedo. I've called your wizards pedos. I've doubted you more than Thomas, my lord. It is fine. I do not care. I went through crucifixion, man. Your words do not hurt me. How was that, by the way? I've always thought it was weird people used your brutal and agonizing demise as a symbol of your message. Kind of rubbing salt in your wounds, huh? Well, yeah, it was pretty brutal, man. You have to be a pretty tough guy to take that kind of punishment. Great for the abs, though. Why did you abandon us, Jesus? Well, I didn't abandon... Yes, you did. You left us for 2,000 years. You left us to die in a world of starvation, war, rape, and murder. What? No, those are the evils of man. Those are your fault. Well, what about the hurricanes, the earthquakes and tsunamis, the famines, the plagues, cancer? Well, God has a plan for everyone. But you are God. Look, I don't have time for this. Did you do it for fun? What? How dare you? What other reason would there be for creating the earth, filling it with sentient life, and then massacring us in countless harsh and brutal ways? Again, I was fucking crucified, mate. Good point, but that's no excuse. Look, man, this video isn't even about religion. You're clearly gagging to talk about me. We can do this another time. I just came to tell you the fish thing. Oh shit, yes, I'm wasting time. I've got to get back on topic. Yes, you do. The people are starving. And you want me to teach them fishing? Yes, it is a parable. How will they fish if they live in the desert? I'm going now. Love you. Bye. Well, guys, looks like the Lord has left us. Again. But I do think he had a valid point. Infrastructure and training is the answer to the problem. With the right food production being built and maintained in the right places, it is possible to solve world hunger. Now, you might be thinking, countries like Britain have enough problems as it is. They cannot afford to help the poorer nations of the world right now. I would counter this statement with 2 points. 1, Britain is low-key kind of historically responsible for raping a lot of these now starving countries for their natural resources, so our nation should definitely be invested in helping them rebuild. We still hold the highest score for largest empire though. Suck one, Genghis. 2, most of modern Britain's problems are self-inflicted. They could actually be easily solved if the right measures were taken. Don't worry, motherland, Blank Rascal will heal you. Anyway, the first world countries just need a few societal tweaks to eliminate hunger. The developing world needs a whole lot more. People are starving in Sudan. People are starving in Palestine. People are starving in Somalia, Haiti, Chad, Madagascar, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Yemen, to name a few. So, what can be done? As much as I love How to Basic, I do think his solution can be improved upon. Mailing food to the affected countries is too inconsistent. The starving countries need their own food production, and they need the UN's help to achieve this. If only there was a cheap, nutritious, easily producible food source to turn to. Well, there is, and you've already heard of it. Mysoprotein. This stuff is fucking amazing. It's a fungus that can be grown in vats to produce a highly nutritious, protein and vitamin rich foodstuff. Its main advantage over traditional farming is that it can be grown indoors. All that's required is a bit of water and glucose. Unlike animal farming, which takes months or years to produce edible protein, fungal fermentation is a high yield, continuous process that only takes around 5 days to mature, allowing for rapid and consistent production. Now, there are some drawbacks. For example, it tastes like fucking shite. It's the main ingredient in corn products. I don't know how people voluntarily eat the stuff, but it is nutritious enough and will certainly prevent a human being from starving to death. Obviously, fungus won't magically solve world hunger. Advances in food production techniques are brilliant and very helpful in combating the hunger problem. But more importantly, we would also need to fix the major issues of poverty, war, and the climate. All of which are nearly impossible feats within their own rights. Fucking shit, bollocks, twat, cunt, muncher. Ideally, we would have a global government with actual power to implement real change. Instead, we have the UN, which has always been a bit of a limp sausage. Ultimately, this is the UN's problem to fix. They talk a big game, but if they fail to fix world hunger by 2030, as I strongly suspect they might, then we cannot allow them to forget just how empty their promises are. The bottom line is, poor countries need to be able to produce their own food, whatever food it is. And we have a moral obligation as human beings to help them do it. Love you. Bye!